Testing 1 2 3. This is Anisha Curd Walcott reporting from the Tobago office. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anisha Currit Walcott, one of the senior coordinators at the National Training Agency, with the responsibility for the Tobago office. Today, I am pleased to welcome you to the NTA's 12th webinar, The Evolving Face of Competency-Based Education and Training. I hope everyone is feeling as thankful as I am today because we are indeed lucky to be alive. Life as we know has changed due to this pandemic, and there is little indication that things would ever be normal again. But we continue to look on the bright side and know that all things work together. As such, we are the National Training Agency, who is the leading body responsible for the coordination of all technical and vocational education and training, and of Trinidad and Tobago's first UNEVOC Center, will continuously seek to improve the quality of TVET through close cooperation with TVET experts and stakeholders. Therefore, today's session is no exception and is an opportunity for collaboration and geared towards sharing information and supporting capacity building in alignment with TVET. Our topic today, the evolving face of competency-based education and training, will be presented by Dr. Marcia Rowe Amonde, Senior Director, TVET Development and Support System, HEART NSTA Trust, Jamaica. Dr. Amonde will discuss the benefits of equipping students for the workforce, further education, and for life through the competency-based education and training methodology. The evolving perception of CBET in developing agency and taking responsibility for one's learning. The successes and challenges of implementing the CBET methodology across TVET institutions in Jamaica. The importance of establishing structures and governance frameworks to support the successful implementation of CBET, and how CBET is being implemented in the context of the global pandemic. This topic is significant as it is a great means of expanding one's skills, especially in today's professional climate. The model also allows persons to master individual skills and knowledge areas, competencies at the pace which works best for them. Overall, the model offers many benefits to employers and learners. But of course, I will leave that to Dr. Amonde to elaborate on. Therefore, without further delay, welcome Dr. Amonde and thank you for joining us this afternoon. We look forward to hearing your discussion on CBET today.
Thank you, Anisha, for that very warm and comprehensive welcome. Good afternoon to all my TVET colleagues in Trinidad. I want to thank the Trinidad National Training Agency for giving me this opportunity to have a discussion with you, a discussion about a topic that's common to us all as we seek to come up with quality TVET programs that will prepare our learners, our young people and our adults for work, and I would also add for life. So today we are going to look at CBET as Anissa outlined, and we're going to explore some of the issues around it. And I'm looking forward to the engagement that we will have at the end. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the evolving face of competency-based education and training. That's what CBET stands for. And when we think about TVET, we're thinking about it in the context of TVET. So TVET really refers to the policies, the programs, and the institutions that are dedicated to providing formal education and training and assessment for skills that are needed in the workplace. And Nari, could you just move to the next slide, please? So it is formal structured programs, and they include certification, they include qualification. We offer TVET in our schools, or colleges, or institutes, or post-secondary institutions, polytechnics, workplaces, registered training organizations, and also in the community. That's more on the informal side. When we look at skills, we extend it to the knowledge, the technical skills, and very importantly, the attitudes that we require to carry out specific tasks in the workplace. It does not really focus so much on the skills at the higher education, though in our context, it may very well be so. But it's really the skills at the technical level that we are really equipping our adults and our young people with so that they can go into the workplace and function efficiently. Okay, so what are the drivers for TVET? The drivers mostly are referred to as the economic drivers. So we go to the next slide and we look at some of those drivers. It is really situated within the vision for TVET. And the vision is articulated by UNESCO UNEVOC. And it says, since education is considered the key to effective development strategies, technical vocational education and training is the master key that will help to reduce poverty, promote peace, conserve the environment, improve the quality of life for all, and help to achieve sustainable development. So we see where TVET is linked to sustainability. It's linked to poverty alleviation. The philosophy for TVET is basically economic, but we are also seeing we are going to go a little beyond economic. So as it relates to economic, it's the source from which we get skills, knowledge, technology, very much linked to productivity that will lead to sustained economic growth and wealth accumulation. From a social perspective, it's also about addressing youth unemployment, eradicating, increasing income, and helping to alleviate poverty. Sustainability refers to really the environment and the resources that we have, pursuing growth, but not doing it to the detriment of the environment. I've seen it referred to like this. It's a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And I think it is captured well in an African proverb that says, where we will have enough for all. TVET is situated within the sustainability goals, and it impacts on all the goals, but it impacts mostly on the goal that for number 4 that refers to quality education. And that's where we will see quality technical vocational education and training situated. So it is very much linked. It's inextricably linked with education. And so as we drive the agenda for quality education, it's also important that the TVET agenda be driven. Okay? As we talk about TVET, we have to refer to the youth unemployment rate. And before COVID, we saw it steadily increasing across the Caribbean. And with COVID, it is even more so now. So it is situating TVET in the framework of what is happening across the Caribbean in terms of the economic landscape and the social landscape. CBET really is education for work. It is really about how we will reposition and offer education and training so that it will equip our young people and our adults for work. We have had some quotes from some employers, and we have heard our employers saying, and they make comments like this: our students do not have the competencies for the world of work. They come with us, they lack these competencies. They do not have the right attitude. When they come on the job, there are all kinds of issues because they are not able to respect others. They are not able to work with others. The attitudes are often lacking. We have further heard that our institutions are not doing a good job in preparing our students for the world of work. It's too theoretical, and that when they come into the workplaces, they do not have the skills. Some employers are also saying, when I employ them, I have to spend a lot of resources training them. So it is within this context that we are going to be exploring competency-based education and training. Some years ago, when I was the principal of the Vocational Training Development Institute, I had a discussion with one of our learners, Altino. And I remember Altino saying to me as he was getting ready to graduate, Miss, is a different thing out there. When I go out there, he was pursuing auto mechanics. And he said, when I go out there, I have to encounter the real thing. I have to pay attention to the way I work on the cars. And I try to do a very detailed job because it's people's lives, and people's lives is in my hands. So it is really how we will get them ready so that when they go out, they feel confident that they can apply the skills to do a good job. CBET is known by different names. It has been referred to as competency-based education and training. We have seen it referred to across the world as outcomes-based education, standard-based education, and performance-based education. So it's really known by different names. So what really is it? It is education, and I'm just looking at what a number of authors are saying. It's education for a prospective or actual role in society. It focuses on demonstrated competence, and it provides probability between the different practice contexts. Another sees it as training defined in statements of competencies, and these competencies are relevant to work, and they will help to equip an individual so that they can perform to the desired professional and occupational standards. It's further extended to be seen as a characteristic that a person brings to the workplace. It could be a motive, a trait, a skill, some aspect of one's self-image, social role, your body of knowledge, and you put all of that together to impact on your performance, resulting in effective or superior performance in the workplace. It's also about technical skills and understanding your role within a social and cultural context. So it is seen as the ability to go into a new context, to assess what is needed, and to determine how you should behave in that context. It is further seen, and I think this one brings it well together, as addressing specific competencies or task outcomes that must be performed. Again, the theme of workplace runs right throughout when we look at these different definitions. It focuses on the workplace requirements, the expectations. You link the knowledge of your subject or your skill area to the demonstration of particular skills in the particular workplace context and aligned to the various job requirements. So CBET really is about work and the ability to perform competently in the world of work. Simply put, that's what it is. Now, what are some of the defining features? As we try to develop CBET programs to deliver, to assess, and to evaluate, we need to ensure that the structures and the mechanisms are in place so that the CBET methodology runs right through these programs. So we need to have our qualifications And these qualifications need to have clearly defined statements of competence. They must state the technical requirements, the cognitive requirements, and the attitudinal requirements. These competencies need to be derived from what employers are saying. What's employers saying about the requirements, about the standards. So we're going to take that information and we're going to put that into curriculum documents so that it can facilitate an effective learning experience. When we talk about competency-based education and training, it is important for us to recognize and accredit prior learning. So we need to recognize what our learners or participants come with. The assessment has to be directly aligned with the statements of competence. So the assessment will demonstrate that that the students are able to perform the competencies to the desired standards. And we need to accommodate the learning styles, the preferences, the pace, and the perceived needs. So it does allow for differentiated learning. Some further defining features: we provide multiple opportunities so that our learners can master the skills. Given sufficient time, we operate on the premise that given sufficient time, given support, given training methods, all can achieve. So it is about access and believing in our learners that they can all be empowered and move to the next level. It's also very important that the context, the learning context, be very rich in terms of the learning materials and the various support that we will give to the learners so that they can succeed. As we further look at our TVET systems and see how we can strengthen the competency-based approach, we need to have a robust labor market and intelligence. Where we speak, we look around our social economic context, we look at the government's macroeconomic policies, we see what all of that is saying, and we translate that into learning goals. So those have to drive the agenda. This, as I've said it before, the competencies need to align to workplace requirements. There needs to be a system in place, a very rigorous, structured system for generating occupational standards that we will use to inform the development, the delivery, the assessment, and the evaluation of the programs. We need to engage with the industry. We need to get our industry players or employers on board, the private sector, so that they can drive the training agenda. A strong support in place for our students, the psychosocial support and all the welfare support that's needed, because our goal is really to get them to succeed. Theoretical and practical instruction need to be aligned, because in the practical, that's what makes it CBET. Our learners will need opportunities to apply the theories, to apply the concepts, to apply how they're developing the cognition. So opportunities need to be provided for that. And assessment needs to be valid. It needs to be authentic, even in the workplace setting, even in the institutional setting, so that our learners can get opportunities to demonstrate their competencies. I'm often asked, how does competency-based education and training differs from traditional training? And could you just move to the next slide, please, Nari? Next one, please. It differs in that with traditional training, success is determined by the ability to pass exams. In the competency-based arena, training is focused on outcomes, the outcomes that are to be achieved, what our learners can do. So there is a lot of emphasis on the ability to do, to perform, to apply. what can we do, and not so much on what you know, but it's how that translates into competencies. In the traditional arena, we see where the curriculum is organized around content. It's about subjects. It's about the length of the course. When we talk about competency-based education and training, we see where competencies are structured into modules, and each represents an outcome or a set of outcomes. Recognition is often not given to prior learning in the traditional setting, but in the competency-based setting, we recognize what they come with and accredit that. In the traditional setting, learning mostly takes place in the classroom. In a competency-based arena, we recognize that learning takes place. It can be in a shop in the community. In this case, we are finding that now we have established mobile coaches in Jamaica, and they go to rural areas that would have normally been inaccessible, and they're able to engage with learners there and help them to acquire different competencies. So we really find opportunities to take the learning to the different participants. So mobile coaches in communities. Right now, we are going online. We have transitioned online. So it's not necessarily in the classroom setting in an institution in structured, established labs. Another difference is that learning is often restricted. You need to have some stringent entry requirements. It's often a limited duration in the traditional setting. But in the competency-based setting, learning is often mode-free, it's not time-constrained, and it's often age-free. So it also allows for lifelong learning. No matter where you are, you're transitioning between careers, you're in a crisis where you have lost your jobs, the competency-based approach allows you to come in and to get upgraded and to be upskilled and move back into the workplaces. The emphasis in the traditional arena is on passing exams, but in the competency-based setting, it's really on the demonstration of competencies. Learning is often, as I said, inaccessible. It's very rigid. It's a particular place. In competency-based, there is a focus on access and access for all. So in the true sense, we should not turn individuals back. It really should provide opportunities for individuals to get competencies and be empowered and be transformed as individuals in the process. Success at lower levels is often not required. It can be so configured to allow you to come into a program to get the lower level skills, the foundational skills, and move on to more advanced skills. How does it benefit our students? It equips them with competencies for the world of work. That's basically the main benefit. It allows them to construct knowledge. So this is very important, especially as we begin to contemplate competency-based education and training now. How does it allow for the higher order cognitive skills? And so our teachers have to be trained, they have to be upgraded so that they can design lessons, promote methodologies that will allow for this. So it's really the focus on deep learning, not just about the outcomes of learning, but the process that they go through to learn. It should allow for reflection, critical thinking, thinking outside of the box, problem solving. And the instruction, the curriculum has to be so structured to effectively allow for this. It's also beneficial to our students because it reduces unemployment. Our graduates are leaving with skills so that they can easily transition into the workplaces. Next slide. So However, I must point out that many times critics, as with everything, competency-based education critics, it's often viewed as reducing creativity. It's a learning to order approach where you have the competencies and you expect everyone to achieve those competencies. Those are the competencies we are going to work for our learners to acquire. It is seen as being one-dimensional, aligned with the behavioral approach to learning. It's seen as being prescriptive, and it's often said that it does not allow so much for the application of knowledge. But I tend to differ with this, because if the instruction, if the courses, if learning is so structured, it can allow for all of this, which I see as deep learning. As we think about our institutions and making them into institutions where competency-based education and training is promoted, we will need to have leaders who take charge of the agenda and promote this in the way instruction is delivered, in the entire school community, to promote it as a part of the curriculum. So leadership is very important. And our leaders will need to be change agents, because it's going to take some time to get individuals on board. How do you get your team to see the benefits, to want to buy into it, to be a part of it? So it is about empowering, getting our instructors to be a part of the vision, getting the school community, getting the students to be on board and to take responsibilities for their learning. It's also important that we are instructional leaders. We find out what is happening in the classrooms. We take time. We find out what is happening in the labs. And we have a robust system for instructional supervision in our institutions. It's time like this that we will need to promote professional development, because, as I said, it will be new roles for our teachers. Our teachers now will have to take an active role in how their subject areas are aligned to the world of work, and to demonstrate how they can help their students with the subjects that they're doing be on the path to different careers. So how is mathematics related to the careers that you want to perform? What careers you can go into with auto mechanics, with ICT and the various areas. So our teachers will need to be aware of the new and emerging careers in their areas. They will need to be aware of what is happening in their communities. Many times they will need to go out and broker partnerships in workplaces that will allow our students to go out and participate in work-based learning. They themselves have to be upskilled so that they are aware of the new technologies in their area. It will allow, so as I said, partnership brokers, they will need to market their areas, market the various subjects, and how they are aligned to the different careers. So they will need to be evaluators, because every now and then they will need to take some time intermittently as they engage with their students to see how well the teaching and learning process is working. How well are they integrating the CBET methodology? Is it working? What has gone well? And to use the opportunity to really learn from each other. So it's really also about engaging in reflective practice, engaging in action research. And they will also need to be strategic. Our leaders will also need to be strategic in their approach. They will be brokering, developing relationships with various groups, including our employers, our parents, bringing our students on board. So it will really be a large community engagement, and they need to have to be strategic in how they manage these things. Our labs will have to be equipped so that we have equipment that's at the cutting edge of technology. How do we try to get the funds for that? And if we do not have those labs, what are some of the partnerships that we can be involved in so that our students can have access to the various technologies? So as we go on, we look at some of the challenges that we have had here in Jamaica. We have seen some very positives coming out of the implementation of the competency-based approach. Our students have been able to acquire competencies for employment. We get this feedback from our employers. And we are also getting the feedback through tracer studies from our students as well. So they're able to get jobs, and not only to get jobs, but very importantly now, many of our young people, many of our adults are going into entrepreneurship ventures. They are that confident and they are empowered. So they are also able to create their own jobs. However, we have had some challenges. For many of our teachers, instructors, the way that they have taught, where the teacher is very teacher-centered, very instructor-centered. And the teacher is the sage on the stage. You have heard that, I'm sure. And they take control and they just give all the knowledge to the students. Because that's the way they have been orientated, that's the way they have been taught. Many of our teachers still struggle to make the shift. So a constant support structure, capacity building framework has to be put in place to get them to acquire these skills. Because CBET is so resource intensive, there are many times when our labs are often not at the standard where they should be. And that is something we constantly struggle with and that we constantly work on. How do we get the labs so that they can have the facilities so to be both at regional and international standards? Many of our students still have to be taught how to develop autonomy in learning. And even as they engage with this online environment, we're finding that many of them do not really have the discipline and the maturity to really take on this online learning. They really need support. So the teacher always has a role in getting our students to really take responsibility and to sustain their engagement in learning. But in all of this, as teachers, educators, we need to put the framework in place so that they can really take responsibility and become lifelong learners. Many times it's often challenging to establish partnerships and opportunities for work-based learning. Our employers need to see what is in this for me. And it's really about helping them to get competent employees. Next slide. As we contemplate what is happening with COVID now, and Anisha referred to that in her opening remarks, we still need to ensure that instruction is so organized that our students get the competencies that are needed. So how do we find ways to align training to some new and emerging jobs? Even before COVID, we had to contemplate Industry 4.0 and the implications of that for training and all the new and emerging areas that is coming with, and use that information to inform and to reposition our training systems so that we can really get our students ready for the digital age. So during COVID now, it's how do we survive this? And not only survive, but how do we thrive? And so we have to sit and strategize. The answers are often complex. I do not have all the answers, but I think that we have it in us to come up with the strategies to really capitalize on the opportunities. In many cases, even as we go through this pandemic, we have seen where the community is coming and playing a part in the learning. So there may be a community where someone has a garage, and they are making that available to our students in auto mechanics so that they can come in, spend a few hours, and hone their skills in auto mechanics. However, one of the things, and I see this as an opportunity for us to help these small businesses to have quality standards so that they can be registered. Because even as we provide opportunities in this way, it needs to be offered at quality standards. In my organization here in the Heart Trust, we are putting a lot of emphasis on videos and developing videos, because we are finding that many of our students, they do not have access, ready access to Wi-Fi. It is often very unstable. And so we are trying to get the videos out to them and broadcast these on national television stations so that they still get an opportunity to engage and to begin to develop their skills. There's also increased efforts to get simulators so to help to support the learning. So I know simulators can often be costly, but we have found that simulators, they can even in many cases integrated in the online platform being used and help to support learning. We have also seen some creative methods where students are engaged in learning at home. So those students who have to do housekeeping, that's a program that they're involved in. They're using their home environment to support their learning. So they go in a room, they make a bed, and they send a video of that to their instructors, and they get feedback on that. As we think about all these online engagement that we have to transition to, it is also important that we offer online learning at quality standards. So the standards for quality are very important, meaning we need to spend some time equipping our teachers with the competencies, because they too are transitioning. And some of our teachers, instructors do not necessarily have the competencies to competently engage with the platform and to get our students involved in online learning. And when they do, we need to look at the rich experiences that are on that the learning management systems are able to offer, the group work, and to so design instructions so that students can really develop in the process. So what are the standards for online learning? The protocols that we need to establish so that they can develop the attitudinal skills. How do they communicate with each other and present themselves in an online environment? It has to be managed during this period and beyond, because I believe it is here to stay. And we need to look at what are the businesses around, the established businesses that we can partner with. Many are willing to come on board during this time so that we can get access to facilities and so help to continue the momentum of teaching and learning. So the skills are very important, and the learning environment has to be so organized to develop these skills in our young people, to develop them in our learners or participants. How do we get them to manage uncertainty during this period? This is an opportunity to really develop in them the ability to do these things, to develop autonomy, responsibility, discipline, and to be productive in the process. So digital literacy, technological skills are also very important. Learning to learn and also to unlearn. The technical vocational education area is evolving and shifting so much that new skills are constantly coming on. How can they learn and unlearn and embrace these new skills in order to be productive? And what are the opportunities to develop creativity and be innovative during this time? These are very important skills as we cope with the pandemic. And a few others, data literacy. We have a lot of data around now. How can we be literate? How do we use it? Use it to inform solid decisions moving forward. Critical thinking is also important during this time. Collaboration, teamwork, foresight. These were important before COVID. They're equally or even more important now as we get our students ready for the future, ready for what we're coping with now, ready for the world that is to come. Next slide, please. There are also some has provided these opportunities: data analytics, artificial intelligence, software and automation skills, coding, digital marketing, digital skills, cybersecurity skills, jobs with a high level of emotional intelligence, such as counseling, customer care, healthcare workers, and we are also seeing more automation in agriculture. I just want to, as we talk about competency-based education and training and the focus on outcomes and outcomes for work, a new paradigm is coming in now as we seek to educate our learners and our participants in the TVET environment. And this is about the human development paradigm. And it is the importance, and it's very important that we get them ready for work. So I'm in no way discounting that. But as we do that, it's about how do we provide opportunities to really develop our learners in their fullness, to see work as more than just economic and just coming in, but to create work and employment and recognizing that it's in many ways related to their identity and their self-worth. As we educate them, to get them to be empowered, to give them agency, and to enable them to act and to be a part of the decision-making process in society. And this is situated within the UNDP Human Development Paradigm that says TVET, learning, education, should provide opportunities for individuals to advance the goals that they value and to contribute to their general well-being. And it's also about contributing to sustainability. So even as we talk about CBET and the pedagogy of CBET, it's very important that we consider these things. Opportunities that will give the individual to contemplate life, to construct meanings, and to decide on their path forward, to provide them with the ability to thrive in their families and in their communities. As I said, to take charge of their lives and to develop them as autonomous learners. So this is what we refer to as the human development paradigm in the context of CBET. And it has implications for the pedagogy and how we engage our learners in CBET. So we really need to move away from just the focus on the outcomes and look at the process, as I said, to allow for deep learning, for critical thinking, and for learners to begin to explore themselves and to become more self-aware. It's also about developing the metacognitive competencies, helping them to construct knowledge so that they can come up with their own opinions instead of having someone come up with it for them. And as I said, it's really about all of these. It's really about the process and not only the outcomes of learning. So as I move on to the final slide, and as we contemplate CBET and CBET as the focus on work, getting our young people, getting our adults ready for work. Let us go now beyond the economic rationale. Certainly in this type of COVID, it takes a particular individual who can navigate the different crisis areas and thrive. So our system, the pedagogy, how do we present instruction that will look at economic growth, but at the same time will prepare learners who can have conversations and be aware of issues around social justice, social equity, empowerment, developing their capabilities, their agency, who will look at issues to do with ethics, morality, religion, knowledge and technology, and to frame their role, to frame their identity in all of that. So the evolving face of CBET, as I see it, is about the holistic and the human development paradigm, developing an individual in all their fullness. I thank you. So I look forward to an opportunity now to just engage with you and to hear your perspectives on these various issues. Thank you very much. Over to you, Anisha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amonde. Thank you for such an insightful presentation on the evolving face of CBET, and most of us for sharing your invaluable time with us today. Thank you for highlighting the importance of aligning training with the emerging jobs despite the challenges we encounter presently, the importance of working together, especially partnering with the private sector to make this work, and the importance of developing new and relevant skills post-pandemic. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome your questions for Dr. Amonde for our question and answer session, which will begin now. We will try our best to address as many questions as our remaining time will allow. Okay, Dr. Amonde, I have my very first question for you from our viewing audience. Are we not subjecting TVET participants to an imbalanced scale since complaints about graduates not having competencies and attitudes for the workplace are not unique to only the TVET space? Yet TVET is expected to focus on doing without strong emphasis on theory. Does this not run the risk of continuing the disparity in valuing the TVET versus the academic in the mind of the population?
I think that's a very good question. As we think of TVET, it's very important that we bridge the academic TVET divide. So I see TVET and the academic areas as being very important. They are inextricably linked. So what we have said can extend to all areas. We really need to bring TVET together. And that is why even from the sustainability goals, it's incorporated under the umbrella of quality education, recognizing that it's a part of education and training generally. And the general education areas are very important to TVET. So the mathematics and the literacy and the sciences. So all the issues that I've spoken about, certainly, they are not just unique to TVET. They go right across the education and training landscape. And this really is an important conversation, an important point about bridging the academic vocational divide. And I also think that that will also help to raise the negative perception of TVET. So TVET needs to be situated right there with all the other areas and with all the other frameworks. And even here in Jamaica, in the Ministry of Education, a few years ago, we had a curriculum unit for TVET. Now the TVET unit is now under the broader core curriculum unit. And it's the recognition that it's all coming together. So the areas, as was said, quite rightly so by our participants, they're not just unique to TVET, but they extend right across the education landscape.
Okay, thank you. I think you would have touched on the next question I was about to ask you. In light of the criticisms leveled against CBET, that is minimizing creativity, heavily prescriptive, and overly focused on behavioral learning, how has instructor development and clinical supervision evolved in the Jamaican experience?
So we have recognized that in order to get our instructors on board, we need to have a robust instructional supervision framework. So it began with workshops where we were all exposed to the instructional supervision and what we are seeking to do. And that had to be followed up in the institutions. So there is a checklist for instructional supervision. And the checklist speaks